As soon as Senator Zucker is done socializing back there. Uh-huh. We on?
We are.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is our first get-together for the new session. I love all your smiling faces. And I promise you'll be smiling at the end. That is a promise. That's a promise. That's a promise. All right, we've got 2 briefings today, and then we'll do a quick organizational meeting. All of them, I'm hopeful, will be fairly quick. Madam Comptroller and Mr. Deputy Comptroller, come on down.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and Vice Chair and members of the committee. We are honored to be your first briefing this year, and you are ours as well, and it's just great to be here. So thanks for taking the time to hear a little bit about what we have been up to and what we are working on in the coming year. As you know, so much of what we do in the Office of the Comptroller relates to the work that you do on this committee in many different ways. And so I'm really grateful for the opportunity to talk with you about it today. Who is running the slides? No one? Or I am? Okay, I just wasn't sure if I should hit it or someone else should. Okay, I can do it. There we go. Great. So this is our org chart, which you can't see because it's too small, but needless to just to orient you, we have 4 major departments, or 5 major departments: the Office of Revenue Operations and Accounting. We have I have Chief Deputy Comptroller Andy Schaffel with me. We also have a department that oversees all our public engagement and communications. We have a Department of Law and Oversight, a Department of Policy, Public Works and Investment, and then our IT Services and Systems, or Strategy and Systems. Rob O'Connor is in the back here, our Chief Investment Officer. Rihanna Matthews-Brown, our Chief of Staff, is behind me. Matt Dudzik is our State Government Affairs Leader, and Steve Harrington, who also oversees Government Affairs, will be joining us later. We have also up with me today Robert Rehrman, who's the Director of our Bureau of Revenue Estimates. We have, our vision statement: to work in partnership to create a state that's more equitable, more resilient, and more prosperous so that every Marylander can reach their full potential. Those 3 arrows you see underneath, those are our core priorities. Everything that we do in our agency has to align with one of our priorities. They are making government work better, ensuring the resources and expertise of the office create opportunities for and positively impact Maryland families, communities, and business, and finally, ensure Maryland is well positioned for responsible long-term economic growth and success. So I thought we would talk a little bit about what it is we do in the Office of the Comptroller today. Of course, we have many roles as State Comptroller. The Constitution says that we have the general superintendence of the fiscal affairs of the state of Maryland, which means a lot of different things. But one of the things that it means, and which you all probably think of first, and most Marylanders think of first, is that I serve as our Chief Revenue Administrator. So we're going to, here is a quick view of some of what we do by the numbers. We collect and we serve over 3.2 million individual taxpayers for personal income tax returns. That is more than 5.8 million returns and payments. Last year, we issued 2.7 million refunds, and 440,000 people claimed the earned income tax credit. We also serve over 400,000 businesses paying a variety of taxes and fees, of course, corporate income tax, sales and use tax, remitting that, withholding taxes, IFTA taxes, and more. Business taxpayers submitted more than 6.1 million returns and payments last year, all through our brand new system of Maryland Tax Connect. Here is a little bit more. As you can see here, last fiscal year, we collected more than $36 billion in revenue from various taxes and fees. These then go to support not only the state's general fund, but also our local, county, and municipal governments, and important debt service obligations such as the Bay Restoration Fund and the Stadium Authority. So just a quick glance at what we collected last year. What else do? We also are the unclaimed property administrator for the state of Maryland. And we work to reunite abandoned property with its rightful owners and heirs at no cost to them. We conduct year-round outreach activities, and in October, we're really excited. We released a brand new unclaimed property system. This is the first new unclaimed property system in decades in Maryland. We are now in line with the 40 other states who also use this same system. I'm actually the vice president of the National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators. Not a title I ever thought I would have, but there you go. And so we work really closely with the unclaimed property administrators and across the country through the National Association of State Treasurers, of which we're a member. So this new system, it is much easier to search for your lost property. It is much easier to claim it. I was giving a speech this fall and I mentioned it, and at the end of my speech, somebody came up to me, a mayor actually, and said that in the time that it had taken me to finish my speech, she had searched for unclaimed property, found it, and claimed it. So, and it wasn't a very long speech. So it is a much more efficient system, and we'll be able to remit people's money back to them much more quickly. What we also, as you know, have started sharing the data that we have and analyzing it in a way that I hope is helpful for you all. We are not policymakers, you are, but we do have quite a bit of data at our disposal. And so, as you know, we have been publishing a variety of economic reports and policy research. Everything from information on the state of the economy to the impact of the federal government on Maryland's economy, to what uptake of the earned income tax credit, school construction costs, what immigrants mean and how important they are to our economy, and more. We just released a follow-up report last week on the federal government's impact on the state of Maryland's economy. We released actually a couple scenarios where we say, okay, if the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center had actually closed, here is what it would have meant for Prince George's County. Here's what it would have meant for Montgomery County. When USAID closed, here's what it meant to our economy in terms of jobs lost and revenue lost. And then we also released a simulator, an IT system, basically a tool that the CFOs of all of your counties can use to go in and look up what it would mean if various cuts were to happen. And there you can see we also are sharing the data that we have more. We've released a COM 360 dashboard. If you see in the upper right-hand corner there, you can zero in on your county and see how many people are claiming the earned income tax credit and other taxes that they're paying. If you take a look at the bottom right-hand corner, that's our brand new Board of Public Works dashboard. This was a bill that you all passed that was championed by the Legislative Black Caucus that we worked with them on to ensure that we were putting BPW contracts online so you didn't have to just download a PDF to read what the BPW was doing, but you could actually search for it online. And we're trying to do more and more dashboarding to be more transparent in all that we are doing. Another thing that we do is that I sit on a number of different boards. Here are just 3 of those boards that we thought we'd highlight for you. The Maryland State Retirement and Pension System. Last year we had a 9.8% annual return, which exceeded our benchmark goals. Senator Young, you'll appreciate this, or Senator Lewis Young. We also launched a climate advisory panel, and our brand new Chief Investment Officer started today. So we had a board meeting day. It was her first meeting. We're really excited to have her. She succeeds Andy Palmer, who was with us for over 10 years. So new day with the system. I also chair the board of the Maryland Community Investment Corporation, which you all created through state legislation a couple years ago. And I'm on the board of the Maryland Food Center Authority, which just hired a new executive director as well. We are endeavoring to build an agency for the 21st century. Those are a few of the things we do, and we want to make sure that we're bringing our office out of the 1980s into the 21st century, meaning off of the mainframe, out of COBOL. You'll see that bottom left-hand screen. That is an actual screenshot of the kind of screen that many of our staff still have to use. We have launched more than 70 modernization projects in the past 3 years. And that really is from the ground to the sky. We were losing connectivity in the Treasury building and had to lay new fiber, literally had to lay new fiber underground so that we would keep our internet going. All the way up to the sky, we had no cell service. Now we have cell service through some work with our cell carriers and our agency. So, and then everything in between with so many systems. I mentioned our new unclaimed property system, the BPW dashboard, and we have more to come. Maryland Tax Connect we rolled out for businesses 2 years ago. All payments now are remitted through Maryland Tax Connect, and hundreds of thousands of, I think, over 300,000 businesses have a full-fledged Maryland Tax Connect account where they can see everything that they're doing. And we launched last year a brand new CRM platform. So we'd never had a customer relation management system before. Everything we did was through, an inbox. And now we actually have a CRM so that people can get a case number. We can follow it through. If you have a constituent who has a case number and it hasn't been acted on, if we have that case number, we can go right in, see where it is, see what happened, see what, why it didn't get solved, and correct it so that sort of thing doesn't happen again. So it's great for training, for accountability, and for customer service. We also launched our brand new website last year, marylandcomptroller.gov, that for the first time is 508 compliant, so that blind Marylanders can access it, and offers a variety of new tools as well. At the end of the day, we are here to work with you to ensure the long-term fiscal success of the state. In addition to providing those research reports, we of course have Robert Rehrman here, who is our director of the Bureau of Revenue Estimates, who issues economic forecasts, who did a 60-day report analyzing the OB3 impact on the state. We are also very focused on strategic compliance investments that I'll talk a little bit more about later, and making sure that you and others have a chance to review our data through our open data portal. Now I will turn it over to Andy and Robert to talk a little bit about our revenue forecasts.
Great. Thank you, Madam Comptroller. So looking at the December forecast, I think a key takeaway is that it was a modest change. That's very important. Revenues continue to be in line with our expectations in the midst of heightened uncertainty, including the federal government spending and employment reductions. Starting in December 2024 forecast, we started to take proactive adjustments to our revenue forecast in anticipation from the negative economic impacts of these employment reductions and spending reductions, not only in Maryland, but in the region. And we are bearing a disproportionate burden of those reductions. But looking at the left column, heading into December, we were slightly above the estimates. So that's, again, a very important part of the December forecast. Within the December forecast, the board adjusted upwards the fiscal 26 forecast modestly. It was really a recalibration of our expectations from our big three revenue sources, a little bit more personal income tax revenue and a little less sales tax and corporate income tax, which we believe is being negatively impacted by the One Big Beautiful Bill. And then we also wrote up some other revenue sources that are less connected to the economy. We're continuing to benefit from some interest income, and also estate tax has been strong. Next slide, please. So although December was a little bit of a non-story, if you will, just really want to stress the uncertainties of this fiscal year. Not only do we have the federal actions, but we have a slowing national economy, slowing labor market. And we also have two significant pieces of tax legislation, the One Big Beautiful Bill, which is impacting both personal income tax and corporate income tax, and the 2025 BRFA, which is impacting the personal income tax and the sales tax. So I think there's two key takeaways. There's estimates on top of estimates, and that can make forecasting a little more challenging. And also the nature of the bills being effective in tax year 25, it'll push some revenue towards the end of the fiscal year. So we always get a lot in final payments, but we expect more. So that's just one key takeaway of this year is we're probably going to have more in the latter part of this fiscal year. So that makes revenue monitoring a little bit more difficult. Thank you.
Anything else you want to add?
I'm not.
Okay. Any questions about revenues before I move on?
What's the, thank you, what's the
the one piece of data, if you can come up with it, that is the longest lag that we're waiting for?
The longest lag in the data that we're waiting for?
Yeah. How significant is it?
I do think that the government shutdown did delay some economic data, so that impacted the December estimate. I can't really think of anything offhand because I think we're fortunate at the Comptroller's office to have both the withholding and sales tax, where that gives us real-time economic indicators. So every business day, we are processing checks, and that provides us with, I think, a powerful picture of the economy. It's not to say I would always want more data, but I think those are two very powerful key pieces of information. I think one challenge would probably be capital gains. So there's always a lag in that.
Always, yeah.
And it's always drives errors in our forecast.
And I would just add to that, that with the recent tax changes, it's an even bigger component of the state's budget now, right? It's a one-off with a surcharge. So that volatility there is going to be magnified in the fact that our data, this might give us better data because now it's going to have to be reported more accurately by the taxpayers. So it might actually help us in terms of getting timely data on capital gains. But we're a year out from that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that presentation. What is behind the major discrepancy in corporate tax? Is that changes to the law, or are there other factors going on there?
I think that's a really challenging question because we did decouple temporarily from those three provisions. I do believe it's possible that corporations are not adjusting their estimated payments to reflect that. We saw that within the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. We had a surge in final payments when corporations, in addition to the uncertainty on the state level, it's also for corporations. But from a budget perspective, it's a little hard to plan on that. But we are seeing some Maryland-specific weakness. We looked at our contractors. Defense contractors are holding up in their estimated payments. For non-defense contractors, though, we're seeing some significant weakness. So it looks to be a combination of factors. So we did write it down due to some of that, to the mix of factors. And I should say the last part of this, sorry, it's a complicated story, is above and beyond what we decoupled from, there could be indirect factors filtering down. When TCJA passed, above and beyond the individual provisions, it benefited the Maryland corporate income tax. In fact, we estimate we have about $200 million more in corporate income tax revenues because of maybe some of the international provisions, and OB3 changed that. So that's the third difficult part is it something above and beyond the three provisions that we decoupled from? Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all very much for coming. And Mr. Comptroller, just when we talk about customer relations, constituent services, and we talk about everything that.
I have a whole slide on that later, but yes, go for it.
Okay, is this not the right
Well,
time?
I was just, if you have questions, I'm happy to take it now, but I do have I have more on customer service.
Okay, I will.
You want to wait? Okay, sure, no problem. I'm happy to answer it, yeah.
Thank you, and again, thank you for this information here. I guess my question here is regards to not just this information presented today, but some of the information you've presented to us previously, specifically the migration information that you put out before, and what the correlation you see between the two. So like a lot of the conversation here focused recently has been about actions within the federal government, right? And so, you know, with the migration information that you released earlier, which showed a lot of middle income, higher income folks that were leaving our state, that would also have a significant impact on some of these tax implications, correct? And so I guess to see how that's layered in there, and maybe that's going to be talked about later on or not, but I see a lot of focus here on the federal actions per se. And so I didn't know if there was other points other than just those points, if that makes any sense.
I don't think that I wouldn't say that there's an undue focus on the federal actions, other than that some of the data. The federal shutdown reduced some of the data. So that was, that it's just is what it is. If data can't come out because the government shut down, we don't have it. And they didn't have it all in December. And I think the other point that Robert was trying to make is that there were two major pieces of tax and revenue legislation that passed last year. One was federal and one was state. And combined, that has a big impact on filers' behavior. And so we can't untangle them because they passed the same year, and that will have that leads to just some uncertainty in how our taxpayers will behave, and hence could lead to some volatility that we have not seen yet. So it's not necessarily all about federal. It's just that these tax things happened that affect the economic data right now. As far as migration, there is an impact. Certainly, if you leave the state, you're not paying taxes here anymore. But we haven't been able to, and I think it would be probably impossible to accurately quantify the taxes lost from those individuals. And I wouldn't want to sort of guess at that. I don't know, Andy, if you have any thoughts on that. But
Yeah, I would add that that's something we certainly couldn't forecast, right? Migration's been something for Maryland, for quite some time. Post-Great Recession, COVID changed the dynamics of it. It's a continually evolving challenge. It's certainly not something that I think we could build into any of our econometric models.
No,
but
and
it is
I guess
built in
I
to a
understand that the
degree.
forecasting part, that's definitely
Yeah.
challenging. And I guess in retrospect, if there's a way to go back and look at, because again, we changed some tax policies last year, which
Yep.
affects some of our higher income earners. So tough to forecast what that's going to look like.
Right.
But if there will be some sort of data released in the future as far as, all right, we had this amount of earners last year that filed versus this amount of earners this year filed. And
Sure.
within those different brackets, because I think that would show
Yes.
what that impact is. Understand, it's hard to forecast because we don't know. You won't know until you know, right?
Yeah.
So understood. Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that's an important point. Go ahead.
We do publish that data. annually.
Yeah.
As soon as the tax season concludes, we have tables laid out by the amount of income, the quantity of people in those brackets. And
Yep. And in fact, that's what DBM uses in part to do its modeling for or its direct impact dollars and its formulas for all the counties. So yeah, it's a fascinating document that I'm happy to send you. It's really interesting, and it is really a picture. I sometimes say that the comptroller's office, where we see the numbers that tell the story of how Maryland families and businesses are doing, it's that document. That's what tells the story. It's it's really interesting.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Chairman.
And again, thank you for this briefing. Thank you for all the work you're doing. I really like your economic analysis. That's a real improvement in the information available
you.
to us. So I really appreciate that. I get confused on the federal cutbacks. I'm sure everybody does. It's not as bad as it was during DOGE, as confusing as it was during DOGE. But if you think about agencies in Maryland, and obviously the one that you mentioned that's close to my heart is the Beltsville Agricultural
Yep.
Research Center. So they have not sold the Agricultural Research Center, as far as I know.
No,
And they don't have the power to do it without action of Congress, as I understand it.
they're not, and they're not going to do it. That was part of the shutdown deal. That was
Yes,
part
exactly
of the
right.
reopening.
That's
Yep.
exactly right. But I thought they still could be moving people out of BARC.
They could potentially be. I don't know all the details of what was negotiated as
Okay.
part of the reopening, but I do know that, they would have to maintain, there are animals there they have to maintain
No,
and keep
you
alive,
have to
right?
take the animals with them. No, I understand. We would like to keep the animals,
yes,
actually.
Yes.
But I'm sort of framing a broader question, using that just as an example.
Yep.
Is where they're closing federal agencies or shrinking federal agencies, are those numbers captured in the 25,000 federal employees who've lost jobs? And we just don't know which agencies? I'm trying to get my head around that.
So that's a good question, and it lends itself to some clarification. So they announced that 24,900 jobs in Maryland had been cut, right? So this is a distinction with a difference. That's not 24,900 Marylanders who lost jobs. We estimate that about 80% of federal jobs in Maryland are held by Marylanders, but some of them are held by Washingtonians, Virginians.
Yep.
There are, though, Marylanders who work in D.C., right,
Absolutely.
as well, and they are also losing jobs. So the data is reflected in the that data would be reflected in the withholding that we receive rather than in sort of BLS numbers. Is that, you want to clarify or just talk more about that? Yeah.
That's exactly right. And to give some more information and data on that, there is a disconnect, if you will, between the economic data that the comptroller mentioned and our withholding. So when you look at our withholding through the first 3 quarters of last year, the federal government was actually a positive influence. It led to about a 0.5% increase in our growth rate. And clearly, people are losing their jobs and employment, about 15% decline. Part of that is because of the deferred resignation program. Individuals were getting paid.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that's also why our forecast, we expect material weakness in 2026 because those individuals are
gone.
off the books, if you will. And in particular, we had a lot of money in Q1 from the federal government of 2025. So we're going to have kind of that positive noise to go
Yep,
against
yep.
and the loss of employees. So I'm going to be really looking at Q1 to see how that the growth rate is relative to 2025.
If I may, one more. I'm interested in it from the revenue estimate point of view, but I'm also interested in it from the economic point of view and what's happening to Maryland. So the 25,000 or 24,900 figure is federal jobs lost in Maryland.
Yes.
And you say maybe 80% of them are Marylanders, but then there are all the people who work outside of Maryland.
Right.
Do we or anybody have equivalent numbers of how many Marylanders have lost federal jobs?
Right. So that's the information that we would need to get through our withholding.
And when will we get that? Don't all speak at
Until
once.
we get W-2s and we see how many people.
So I'm just saying approximately when.
Oh, God, it's not going to be until early 2027.
Early 2027.
Unless the federal government decides to release data on who they terminated by their place of residence.
Early calendar 2027?
Calendar year 2027.
So we won't know for a year unless the federal government is a little more cooperative in sharing data, how many Marylanders have really lost their jobs with the federal government.
Correct.
Wow. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Great. Just 2 more sections, one that are both in our revenue division that I thought worth sharing. One is about our compliance division. So when I took office, we had a compliance division that was being rebuilt. We were the only state in the nation that did no audits throughout COVID. And so most of the employees who had worked in our compliance division were sent to other divisions of the agency. So we have been rebuilding our compliance division, which is our auditing team. They do audits and collections. And in a report we provided in September of 2024, we found that our office had 1 audit, collections, or compliance PIN for every 22,710 residents in Maryland, compared to about 1 in 12,000 residents for states like Massachusetts and New Jersey. In other words, we had many fewer auditors than other states on a per capita basis. That means we're not collecting what's supposed to be collected, and is a problem for the state and is a problem for our future finances. In an effort to improve our compliance footprint in FY25, thank you, provided 28 new PINs and $3.9 million for IT investments in our compliance division. Thanks to these strategic investments, we've been able to start expanding our compliance operations. And you can see here that we estimate we're seeing returns on the investment of over $50 million over the following fiscal years. We've already met our ROI goals for FY25. Our ROI estimate for FY25 was $5 million from that investment you made. We exceeded that, and we're on track for FY26 as well to hit that 19.6, and then we think it will go up from there. These are 3. So I mentioned some of those funds that you approved for us to modernize and to use some more IT tools. So the 3 sort of programs that we want to run and are running to modernize our compliance enforcement activities. One, a digital discovery project. We did a pilot with an entity in 2023, 2024 to test their model. It reviews public digital content to identify unreported income, like if you own 10 Airbnbs and you're not reporting any of the income from those Airbnbs, it finds it and it sends it to us, and we compare it to what you had reported so that we can see that you didn't report that income. If you are selling lots of NFTs and not reporting that income, now we can go search it and find it. And there's many other sort of streams of income and unreported income types that we can search for now. So we issued an RFP and we selected a vendor and now have a 3-year contract with an entity to do this kind of work. And it's already showing returns. Anything you want to add to that, Andy?
No, I think that this is modern, like building back our auditing capabilities, but modernizing for the evolving economy and highlighting that these will continue to compound. You know, the folks that we bring into compliance this year will be in compliance next year while we're also bringing new folks into compliance. So these numbers will continue to evolve and grow. And because some of these programs are new to us, we're continuing to refine them and perfect them. So they will also get stronger. It's pretty exciting. We're very excited about the opportunities here.
Yep. The next project is the Remote Sellers Project. This identifies unregistered out-of-state businesses that should be collecting Maryland sales and use tax, but are not. We budgeted them for $1 million. In 2025, we sent our first 3,800 letters to identified vendors. We registered 222 new businesses and collected almost $1 million in sales and use tax. So we've just about broken even with just the first tranche of letters that we sent out. The next program that we want to run is called Intelligent Mail Barcoding. It adds barcodes to improve speed, accuracy, and delivery of mail, and it allows staff to track and verify addresses and learn why their deliveries fail. This was piloted in Pennsylvania. It generated several $1 million in revenue just due to updated address information, which seems really basic, but we can't do it right now. So we have requested $500,000 from the governor's budget to implement this program and hope that we will get it. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about our call volume and our taxpayer services division. So this is the division that many of your constituents interact with. As you know, we work with 3 million personal taxpayers and millions of business taxpayers. And we have seen a sharp uptick in demand for customer service in recent years. And this trend certainly continued through 2025. Our call volume for 2025 represented an all-time high with more than 2.4 million calls between January and September compared to 1.7 million across the same period in 2024. I do want to highlight, though, this is not an apples-to-apples comparison. We updated our call systems from Lumen to Genesis in calendar year 2025. So we actually have much more accurate data now on who is calling in and how many people are trying to get in. Previously, we believe there was underreporting because the system was not picking up people who called but couldn't get through because there were no lines that they could be placed on hold on. So this change, I think, suggests that historical staffing needs may have been severely underestimated. And so I would say now we have much more accurate data than we used to. That's our call volume. This is our CRM, which we launched in April or in February. And you can see at the top is first call resolution. Our goal is to move more and more people to first call resolution so that they don't have to wait for somebody to get back to them. We had 211,000 cases created by taxpayers or by a TSD call taker from throughout last year. We also saw a big increase in branch office visits. This is our 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025 branch office visits you'll see there. Our virtual branch office. In-person appointments, that's like they have appointments in person is the orange, and then the purple are folks who just walked in. Mind you, we had no additional staff for those for people to be helped. Given that, we have had such challenges meeting people's needs in terms of answering the call. Much of our FY27 budget request to the governor was about right-sizing our customer service divisions. Now that we have our CRM fully in place and we can hold our tax service division staffers more accountable, we simply we need more. We need more people to answer the phones. We need more people to be in our offices. We need more people to work CRM cases. Last year, we requested 129 new PINs, which we thought would have gotten us to where we needed. We got 25, which was great. We'll take them. So this year, we are again requesting another 25 PINs to help us keep building up our team so that we can do this work. There are a number of tax law changes in effect July 1st in order to make sure that we can meet the needs of businesses and others. We are requesting 3 additional PINs for tax attorneys, and then additional dollars to improve our cybersecurity and fraud detection centers, to make unclaimed property improvements, and to scale up our analytics. So that is us. Oh yes, our 2026 transformative steps. This is just what we have on coming down the pipeline. We have a huge transition happening in August. So if folks put in bills that call for big changes in personal taxes, please expect to see a letter that says, we have no comment on the policy, but please can you push this out a year or two? Because we have almost no capacity to make any changes to the personal tax system this year. We are moving into a brand new tax system in August. It is absolutely of the utmost importance for the state that this go well. This is how we bring in the revenue so that we can run all of our programs. There is sort of no room for error here. We are all aware of that, and we are working diligently towards a successful rollout in August. We are also moving the entire state payroll to Workday next January 1st, all 100,000 state employees and all university employees. We are also working closely with DoIT and the Treasurer and DBM to move into a new state ERP, our statewide financial management system for paying vendors, grantees, balancing accounts, and more. When we move into a new system, it will give us all a much better window into understanding our finances and seeing where money is, and calling out questions before OLA comes. We are also opening 3 new branch offices. We're continuing our EITC outreach, and we look to do some research reports on women and the economy, AI, our business interstate migration patterns, and more. That is what we have on the horizon. I really appreciate all of your support, your work with us throughout the year, and your patience in any changes to personal taxes for the next couple years. Thank you.
On the changes to personal tax issue, I'm not sure I get my head around this. So you're saying don't do it because we're doing the system transformation. How does that relate to decoupling from the federal changes from the big ugly bill?
Those are all business, right?
Business, there are some individual touch points. Some of those could be accommodated because it's a very simple adjustment. It's not like a specific line item or a major transformation. So in terms of like the ones that we automatically decoupled from, we could accommodate those as long as it's stuck familiar to our existing decoupling.
Okay, well, we should talk offline because I have a bill to maximize decoupling from the big ugly bill. Sure. And so I want to work with you on that. So I appreciate you flagging that issue. Mm-hmm. Second thing on customer service, can you go back to the slide with the beautiful colors? Okay, that one. Mm-hmm. I'm having a little trouble reading it. So purple is
walk-ins.
Those are walk-ins. So why have walk-ins gone up so dramatically?
I think because people see that both the virtual office and the in-person appointments are full, and so they just say, well, I'll walk in, and they can't get through on the phone, so they just walk in.
So it's the lack of capacity.
Yeah.
on virtual or on
Yes,
IC?
on the phone. So I think those are 78,000 people who walked in this year who did not want to have to walk in, right?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. It's not that they want to walk in. That's.
My guess is that most of those people did not want to have to come in, but couldn't get through
I would think
us.
not. That's
Yes.
why I was
Yep.
curious about it.
The appointments, people love our virtual appointments. That is
so.
a very successfful model, and if
And
we
that's
were,
the orange?
that's the green. If we
green.
were to get additional pins, we would put some towards our virtual appointments because it's so successful and people really appreciate it.
That should be a huge priority. I agree.
Yeah,
I
we
agree
would
with that.
love.
I agree with that 100%.
If you give us the people, we will put them there.
I'll talk to the members of your subcommittee. Last item is, to what extent have you experimented with AI for customer service?
Great question. So we have started talking with different vendors and other state revenue agencies about successful projects that they have done. And we have been having meetings with companies who have integrated AI into their call centers. And there's a lot of really exciting models. And so we are very excited to be able to integrate AI tools after our personal tax transition in August. So after we move into our new tax system, we will then, our staff can only do so much at a time. After we move into that new system and everybody's comfortable with it, we will then start integrating more of these models and working with some of the new systems that we've seen. There was at the Federation of Tax Administrator Conference last year, there were some great new ideas of ways that other revenue agencies have started. I mean, no revenue agency is like fully on, it's all baby steps, but everybody's working towards some really interesting models, both that will help our call center staff, like answer questions more correctly, and do, sort of on-the-go training, and also then help with calls as well.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When local governments ask for enabling legislation for taxes to give them flexibility to either put a tax on a certain overlay district or a special business subclass, does that in any way affect your resource allocation?
100%. We do it's all work on us.
Okay.
Yeah, the counties, unless it's property taxes, right?
Right.
But if it's sales and use, if it's income taxes, all of that is work that we have to do, and that we do for them.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for asking that very important question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I see the slide here with the
Yes.
purple.
This is validating everything you know, right? Did I tell you we're going to?
It sure is.
Yeah.
Right? But I think if we could work to get a phone number in the signature block of your employees when they send a letter to the constituents, you wouldn't have as many walk-ins, right? Because we have a tremendous amount of people that have businesses, especially in my community, that do not have access to the internet.
Right, yes,
So when they send their check in
sure.
and it gets returned, for instance, this year, the PO box wasn't active.
I know that was.
That came, we sent them a detailed list. This is how you submit your checks,
Yeah.
right? And then guess what? They all got their checks back.
I know.
And then when they got their checks back, then they got a letter saying, by the way, you're in violation because you didn't send us a check.
And this was an error by our lockbox vendor, just to be clear. Yes.
I'm just
Yeah. No, no, I
saying-
totally-
Right.
So
And then when they got the letter saying they were in violation, there's no phone number to call. It's just a blank signature box. So I picked up the phone and called and said, hey, I'd like to talk to this person. I talked to the person. I said, hey, why is there no signature box? They said, we're not required to ever put a signature or a phone number anymore, right? We don't have to deal with this. So that is why, right, we got a large purple number, because everybody all of a sudden is like, the only way we can solve this right, is to go to, but we had that other issue, and you helped us out with that.
Yeah.
Right? They were coming up here to
Oh my
Annapolis.
God, I know.
Right, then they couldn't get in the
Yeah,
building.
I know.
Right,
So
because we wouldn't let them in the
no,
building,
I
right?
mean,
I mean, it was like
yeah.
we were
I
just
know.
kept
You went
falling
down the rabbit hole.
stairs.
I know.
Right, and so, but I appreciate what we're doing, but I think it's very important that we understand that there are people, in my district alone, 3,000,
who cannot
that
get on the
have
internet. Yep.
businesses that don't have access to the internet.
Sure.
Right, so we can't just turn everything over to electronic and think, well, we're going to make them comply.
Sure.
Right, because what we've got is we've got them going to their neighbors, trying to get on the computer with the kids in the evening of their next door neighbors. Hey, can we try to do this report
Sure.
on your computer? You know what I mean? It's train wreck.
Yep. So totally appreciate that, and we want to make sure that we can work with all constituents. There is that other slide that has walk-ins, but then there's also the challenge of this slide, which is the total calls that we receive, which is 2.5 million versus that we are able to answer, which is 500,000, right? So we can put a phone number, and I'm not opposed to putting a phone number in a signature box, but it will not solve the problem of us not having the resources to be able to answer the phone.
If
So
we have
I'm
the
happy to
time
do
to
it.
send somebody a letter
Yeah.
saying they're in violation
Yeah.
and we're going to take action against them,
Yep.
there should be somewhere that they can call
I agree.
when they
That's
receive
fine.
that.
I'm
Right, that's
perfectly
what's
agreed.
missing
Yeah.
in this whole
totally
thing.
happy to put a phone number. I'm not sure which letter it was, but I'll look, because some of them do have phone numbers, but we're more than happy, and usually there's not a signature box, like in the text of it, it says, call this number or make an appointment, is where usually the phone number is, but I'm happy to put it in a signature box. I don't want to, my biggest concern and my biggest frustration is that people cannot get through to my agency. And we are throwing everything at it that we can to prevent people from needing to call us by trying to update our systems. But at the end of the day, we just can't meet the need with the numbers we have. So I totally agree with you. I'm happy to put the phone numbers on every piece of mail that we send out. But I also know that will mean that blue bar goes up, and I don't have any additional people to put on the phone.
And I appreciate
Yeah.
you and your staff working with us
Sure.
on this. One of
Always.
the other issues we had when we talk about audits, and we talk about some of the people, being a retired law enforcement officer, right? There was the Hometown Heroes tax credit. Right, and I had some officers, especially officers that were in their late 80s and 90s, who were audited.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
And what we found out when they reached out to our office, and I ended up talking to the investigator, we found out that your office does not have any access whatsoever with the state. And so that they could not tell who was a state retiree. And some of these calls went so far to have the auditor request that the former police officer, a 91-year-old man, cut the patch off of the shirt that he was going to be buried in to be sent
That's
to
bizarre. What?
to the auditor, so they knew, because the department had changed, they had no idea. So we went down. Fortunately, I had worked for this gentleman.
Yeah.
Right? I had pictures of him in uniform, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like,
was gonna
this
say,
is.
why don't you just take a picture?
So,
Senator,
Yeah.
can I jump in here a second? It sounds like you really need to spend some time offline on this.
Yeah, we're happy to,
particular.
I'm
This is-
happy to
This
take
is
a
pretty, it's
deep
understood.
dive with
You
it.
got-
Sounds like an overly enthusiastic auditor to go over this. This is a first for me.
and I thank you, and I thank
Yeah.
you for doing with that. But the issue is, I appreciate it, but some of the calls and the way we treat the constituents,
Yeah,
these
it's
are
really
the constituents
concerning.
of Maryland.
No, I agree.
Right?
It's really
and the fact
concerning.
that we treated a 91-year-old man like
Yeah,
that
that's
is,
horrible.
is wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree. You will get no argument from me on that, Senator. That sounds horrible. I'm really sorry to hear about it. And Andy oversees our compliance division and our team, so we will definitely go in and see what is happening and where that came from and pull the case.
And with electronic if we can work so that we can have
Sure.
access to the other branches of state government, I think that that would help us.
I will tell you
Yeah.
that specifically for that program, all of those are run with data that we get from both local and state law enforcement. So we do have data that underlies all of that. None of our compliance efforts will ever be 100% accurate. We certainly don't look at anyone's age, discriminate on any basis when we do compliance efforts. This really sounds like, I will tell you, that is not the normal experience for anybody that is going through an audit with our agency. So I agree, I think we should take that one offline. I'd love to get more information. If I find out that one of our staffers was asking for a patch to be ripped off of a,
Yeah,
I mean, I
That's
don't even know
a-
what to say to that.
yeah,
quite
that's
frankly.
so crazy. So beyond the pale, yeah.
Okay, let's
Thank
move
you.
on. We've got
Yeah,
another
sure.
whole briefing after this, so, and a couple more questions. Senator King.
I'll make this short. I've been listening to briefings with you all for a lot of years, and it just seems every year like your job increases tenfold. You've got more services and more things to do every year, so I congratulate you on that. My only little question is, when will the tax forms be out?
Today. Well, they're already out. The
They are
paper
out.
form's already out. They'll be online later today, and we'll put out an announcement on social media tomorrow.
Senator
good.
King is
Thank you.
really anxious to pay that bill.
No, I have a friend who's a tax lawyer, and he wants the forms.
Yeah, everybody's
Senator
very eager
Corderman.
for forms.
Thank you, quick. First off, thank you for everything your office has done when we reached out to you. In regards to the pins, I know you talked earlier about the pins that were requested last year, and it was 25. I'm assuming those were all filled. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Senator.
On Senator King's question about all this work you guys keep getting. So if we stop passing more taxes, and additional taxes, would it make it easier on you?
Setting us up here. I hear you're not passing any taxes this year.
Asked
Okay,
asked
so
and
this year will
answered.
be easier for you.
That's my hope.
Okay.
I heard an answer already, so let's move on. Madam Comptroller. your
Thank
team,
you.
Thank you all very much for being here.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it and appreciate the partnership. Senator Bailey, look forward to working with you.
Next.
Thanks.
Next up, Department of Information Technology. Oh, we do have a minute in between, which is good, because I was going to step up for a second.